Hey folks, it's Lindsey Huddles and SPS back in the building. That's right, we're in Shamrock Country over at Detroit Catholic Central. We're technically in Novi, but it represents this region. Great school, great history, and I have the pleasure of being with not only a really good friend, a really smart guy, but one of the parents of an up-and-coming player. His dad, to be humble, Chris Lewless, when he talks about Chaz Lewis, but this kid has a great potential, great upside, and literally I have to look up to him now since the last time I saw him some time ago. How you doing, Chris?
You know, sometimes he thinks I have to look up to him also. I'm not admitting that, but I guess I just admitted it that, yeah, I think he's passed me. I wake him up in the morning and I look up and go,
that's okay, but as the philosopher said, I brought you in this world, I could take you out, right?
I may have had one of those conversations.
Already.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I got an 8-year-old daughter, and we're not at that point, but they grow so fast and they get so quick with it, and there's so many things that you got to stay ahead. You know, you and I have had conversations off camera all the time about a number of things, but I want to kind of take advantage of our relationship, not only you being a basketball dad, but just having a broad perspective of this public policy issue of coaching this generation of athletes. You're in a very small percentage of individuals that has a son that has people talking. I talk to other coaches around, and they talk about your son. You know, they say, hey, this kid is solid. He's probably going to be one of the best point guards coming out of the state of Michigan. Maybe we shouldn't let him see this video until a couple years from now. But talk about what it's like coaching the young man, getting them trained, but keeping that competitive nature. But also, I mean, you grew up tough. Saginaw base, you got your roots with some great guys, and you keep it all the way funky. How is it that we coach this generation of athletes to still be competitive, still be strong, but still fit into what society is saying the appropriate way of doing things?
Yeah, you know, I think about that all the time. And what I try to do is when things go really well, I try to bring them back down to earth, and then maybe when things aren't going so well, maybe build him up a little bit. I mean, there's always this yin and this yang on, you know, you're only as good as your last performance, but typically, you know, you're not as good or as bad as your last performance,
sure,
right?
Sure.
It is different. I mean, with social media, I mean, I remember coaching at Saginaw Arthur Hill, and talking to a local coach when I had this kid who was in 8th grade that I thought was really special. I thought that he ought to be starting at Saginaw Nouvelle as a freshman. I thought that he'd walk right in and start as a freshman. Preston Murphy was graduating, went to the University of Rhode Island, and you know, the coach wasn't quite sure about it. You know, the young man was there, played JV, ended up transferring over to Arthur Hill with us the year after, and he was two-time slam dunk champion in the NBA. It was Jason Richardson.
Oh, wow, okay, that's your guy too. I know.
So yeah, just an absolutely fantastic guy. And you know, I've told people, and you know, people didn't believe me, is, you know, 7th and 8th grade, he couldn't really jump super well. He was growing into his body. It took him a while to develop. And I think that it taught him a few other things. He was always really humble. He was always the hardest worker. In high school, he would go to the freshman practice, he'd go to the JV practice, he'd go to the varsity practice.
Trying to be a sponge, take things
and just he won the lottery. He was given some absolutely incredible athleticism, but he was also given a work ethic that, you know, I just thought was really unparalleled. And Chaz spends a lot of time texting him.
Sure. Oh, wow.
I mean, you know, being able to tap into something like that, you know, why not? It wasn't, you know, he didn't walk into the gym a superstar. There are a lot of kids, even in Little Saginaw, at an early age, that are a lot more hype than him. But you know, he certainly did it the right way, and I'm, you know, proud of everything he's accomplished, both in basketball and post-career. So I don't know, with social media, I mean, I try to keep, I'm not worried about Chaz seeing this because he doesn't have it.
Okay, he's not on social media.
Well, he has Instagram. When he was when he's in school last year, his coaches said, you know, you got to get something on social media.
Is that for branding's sake? We got to say the B word sometimes.
That's what they've told him. I'm not quite there yet, so no Twitter, no Facebook.
I get it.
You know, I wish I'd put the phones down a little bit more and actually watch games as opposed to clips. Because you don't see. I mean, I just saw Anthony Edwards with the poster dunk of the year.
Ooh, buddy.
He had 7 points though that game.
And they lost.
Right. So I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I didn't see the outcome that. His three-point shots deficient.
And it's almost like that's not even discussed because they're saying, oh, what do we care about the loss? It was a great dunk or something like that.
Yeah. So, I see a lot of projecting the kids that, they're quick twitch athletes or, they got upside. And what, I don't know what sort of athleticism, my kids got. But, I look at, and not a comparison. It's maybe, Cassius Winston's maybe the best college basketball player I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
But you know what he could do? He knew how to play.
That's right.
He flat out, he knew how to play.
And he definitely wasn't relying on athleticism.
Right.
Because he's the least athletic guy you'll see, with that. I want to go back to something you said, your natural relationship with the Jason Riches of the world and Chaz making that connection. It's ironic. A perfect transition is the coach he played for, Tom Izzo. And as you know, with me spending time with Michigan State's program, especially from a media standpoint, we talk all the time. And it was just last week, Chris, that I posed a question to him as it related to, just dealing with this generation of athletes. And he started naming the current Mount Rushmore of college coaches, saying we all go through the same thing. Calipari, Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Jay Wright. He started naming everyone who's dealing with the best athletes, and he just really talked about that whole issue of, how do you coach these guys up and challenge these guys like the late John Thompson, like the late John Chaney, without getting, scrutinized. And I really think that Tom is still shell-shocked from a few seasons ago when he challenged Aaron Henry. And I'll say this as I defer back to you. He said the image you always see is his finger up. But Tom says his finger was up at him to tell him to keep his head up. So because of social media, like you say, because of this ability to lock in on something, there can be these challenges. So, what do we do going forward, Chris, when we know that we want to get these young people not only ready for great life in sports, but life after sports, where they can do things like, be a great attorney, like somebody who's sitting really close to me right now, be a great leader, be a great teacher, but more importantly, be able to deal with adversity. What do you think about that?
So, I've struggled with this as a dad and a coach, and being a dad who's coached his kid and being a dad who's coached his kid who had to step away from it. And I remember that moment with Coach Izzo and Aaron Henry. And here's why I think Aaron Henry didn't blow up. Because they will see, the public will see Izzo yelling. They won't see him on the phone with these kids at 2 a.m.
That's right.
And, when I've pushed my kid sometimes really hard, and, those of you out there will, have seen it. They might not see the Sunday afternoon ice cream or, the laughing about whatever, or the trips or the meals, or, and when I see Calipari or, Izzo, because that's, to me, the gold standard, go green. He has a relationship with these folks first. And it goes a lifetime. That's why all these guys come back.
That's right.
They always come back.
They have an alumni locker room, literally, where they come back and they're there.
So I think that if you just, it's the old axiom, right, that, they don't know, or they don't care that you know until they know that you care.
Exactly.
Those guys know that he cares about them. To me, one of the most impressive moments of Coach Izzo's career was after we lost to Middle Tennessee State. And ironically, Chaz and I were getting on a plane to fly to Denver to go hang out with Jay Rich.
Okay.
And his son and his beautiful family. And watching Coach Izzo hurt for those guys. Denzel and Bryn, those guys had just left it on the floor.
Right.
Like, you could look at this guy and say, man, he hurt for those guys. Right. And so, to me, that's why he can get away with pushing those guys the way he does, because they know what they sign up for.
That's right. That's true.
They know what they sign up for.
That's true.
But, you can question, the X's and O's right or whatever. More times than not, they are. But I don't think kids have changed. Maybe parents have changed, but somehow Tom Izzo would have done this well in the 80s, and he's doing it well right now.
He is. He has transitioned, and it's ironic that you talk about that Aaron Henry moment as we brought up, because what Tom talked about earlier this year, even late last year, he said that he called Aaron's dad. And he called Aaron's dad and said, hey, man, I want to talk to you about what happened. And his dad said, what are you calling me for? He said, well, you know everything. He said, why are you calling me about that? So when you talk about what the national media may see, what social media may say, what people may say, his dad dad is like, dude, handle your business. And I envision you like that. I envision you being the one saying, hey, you don't got to call me, or the coach is telling you, hey, Dad, chill out, I got this, that type of thing. So give me a little bit of insight from a broader perspective, because you don't operate in a vacuum. I know you can be locked in like this. You have an elite athlete as a son, but you're, based on our long conversations, you're able to give a broad perspective. So where are we going at as leaders of this next generation as far as what's our expectations going to be when coaching our young people, challenging our young people, whether in sports or non-sports? What do you see the future being to be able to make sure our young people can not only be good for themselves, but for America? I'll be patriotic in that sense, so we can be a beacon throughout the world.
There are a few things that we've got to do, and you got to perform, because the world has gotten smaller.
Okay.
I mean, it used to be, whether I'm at work, whether I'm playing basketball or baseball or whatever, that I'm good in my neighborhood. I'm good academically in my neighborhood. But we've seen, look at the Dream Team in 1992.
Oh my goodness.
Right? Easy.
Sure.
I mean, the other guys showed up to get their autograph.
That's right. They were taking pictures. It was class above all others. There was no question.
When we play Spain and Argentina, no one's looking for an autograph anymore.
No,
okay, they show up thinking they can win, and a lot of times they do.
What happened in that space, though, Chris? I mean, that was our lifetime. We saw that from '92. How did the world? That's when you mean the world got smaller.
The world got smaller. I mean, our kids here in Novi, and I mean, we live in Detroit.
Sure.
My son isn't competing academically against kids from Novi. He's competing academically against kids, in Beijing, right?
Global scale.
And that happens athletically. It happens academically. So, I think what we've got to do is and this is something I tried to do when I was in Saginaw, and I try to do with my son now, and with my daughter also, is that the world's a lot smaller, and there's a lot of competition. Athletically, we follow the Michigan State. You like it, you love it, or you live it.
That's right.
Like what do you want out of it?
Right.
There's no, there are no shortcuts. If you're 6'10", and you're built like an Adonis, perhaps, but my kid's not. I'm not.
Sure.
So you've got to live it. And I think maybe, we all make mistakes, but I think maybe some of the best things that I've done is surround your kids with good people and let them go. And be okay with that. I mean, we were in Seattle for a while, and then we came back to it. My son was around great people there.
Sure.
Here, first guy that my son trained with was A.W. Canada.
Yeah, shout out to A-Dub.
Former coach of Pershing. And, A-Dub's like a second dad to my son.
That's awesome.
And quite frankly, there are some game days where Chaz probably needs someone else to talk.
Sure. Because that ride home is going to be tough with Dad. Right.
And, Detroit doesn't always get the credit that it's due, but, there's Cornell Davis, Marcus Stout's out here doing great things.
Let me say for the record, when you touch back down, man, you got so connected with the city. You was hitting spots in the city I ain't seen in a minute.
Yeah.
You was there, and I think that's just your personality. And let's get to the root of it, and that's help. Let me ask you this before we get out of here. Just going forward, what advice can you give to someone who may have not only just a Chaz on the court, but, in the classroom, just a young person that they're trying to develop, and they may not have the connections, they may not have the support, they may not be just a cool, outgoing guy like you that's going to make those type of connections. What advice can you give to them for their son or daughter who's making their transition to greatness?
Go find someone. I mean, with LinkedIn and Facebook, that's how I found A-Dub. Rashad Phillips helped me out.
Shout out Rashad. Shout out to Rashad
Phillips. There are people out here that Rashad and I talk about his dad that they speak life into kids.
Sure.
If you're in the area and you got a kid that wants to be an engineer or an attorney, call me.
Yeah,
we've got plenty of contacts.
You're talking about let's network, get out there.
Networking, and it's easy with social media now. That's one positive of social media is that it's really easy to get out and network.
True.
And look, if you're from Michigan, you're from Detroit, Saginaw, Lance, wherever, I'm happy to help out.
Right.
Just like you are, because
right.
we've got a community here. We got great kids, great people.
Well, we'll put your Instagram on the screen as we speak. Is that MSU_Lou?
MSU_Lou. That's right.
That's it. All right, hit them up and load him up. Last thing I'll say, if you ever out and had the pleasure of playing golf with this guy, be careful if you bet him, because if you lose, you won't like the outcome, right?
I still have that picture in my library.
That was a good time,
yep,
right?
Right off 7 Mile. Yep, you got to come over and see it sometime. I haven't told all the stories about that.
You don't have to.
It's
a good time. Well, this is Lindsey Hudson with SPS. We're getting ready to get started here at Catholic Central. They're hosting U-Prep. We're going to have my guy up here, Coach Brandon Bear, as well as Coach Brandon Sanawi as well. So, Chris, I appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate what you're doing. Not only help your son, but helping everybody else. My God.
Appreciate it, bro.
All right. Take care. All right. We'll see you guys next time.